and welcome to today's episode of Chronicles of a Nigerian Woman. Today, I'll be reading Felicia's story. Take a listen. My growing up was tough. Very, very tough. My father was a philanderer. He womanized heavily and spent most of his free time outside our home. My mother stopped employing female house helps because of my father. And then she started getting male helps. But we were 4 girls and 1 boy. And so when my older twin sister started to develop, she stopped hiring help. It was tough on her because she worked in paid employment. My dad was also verbally abusive towards her, even in our presence. Oh, my mom suffered. She and my father argued all the time and she cried so often. She was emaciated and haggard from years of fasting while working as a federal civil servant. My dad was a banker and quite wealthy. We went to good schools and we lived in average comfort. We didn't really have a relationship with him because he was not ever in the house. He scared me, not because he did anything wrong to us, but because of how he treated my mom. I swore from a very young age not to marry someone like my dad. But as I grew into a teenager, my resolve became a fear and disdain for men, even my own brother. What I felt about men was funny though. It was a kind of love-hate relationship. I related with boys and men, but I did not trust them at all. I felt that at their core, they were all mean cheats. And so I always expected the worst behavior from them. In my opinion, getting married was a necessary evil, and finding a manageable man was a purely providential matter. It was more a matter of getting the best of the evil lot than about getting a good person. You may think that my mindset was extreme, but you can't blame me. My 2 aunts, my mom's sisters, they always consoled my mom by sharing their own issues and imploring her to have patience. One of them discovered that her husband had a 10-year-old child outside their marriage when their first child was 12. And the husband of the other one was laid back and did not have any tenable work, so he did not provide any financial input to his family. My aunt bore full responsibility for everything. My aunt told my mom to take her eyes off my dad's philandering ways and to endure, since he at least provided adequately. And so my mother literally endured while spending all her time fasting and hoping for a change. I was the 4th child. My identical older twin sisters were first, then my brother, I came next, and then my younger sister. We were not extremely close. We just had regular sibling interactions. Of course, my older sisters were very close to each other. And then my younger sister tried to latch on to me, but she was closer to my brother. I was more of a loner. We lived in the same area throughout our growing up years, and so we had friends in that area. One of them was Austin, my older brother's friend. He and other guys around spent a lot of time at our house playing video games, and so I knew him well. Austin and I ended up getting into the same university at the same time, even though he was 2 years older than me. We were also in the same faculty, even though we were studying different courses. Almost naturally, we ended up going through the registration process and doing most things together at the beginning. Throughout this time, the alarm bells in my head were very sensitive, and I did not allow even the faintest hint of interest to develop. We were platonic friends, and things remained that way throughout our stay in school. As time went on, I made other friends, and so did he. We still met from time to time, and sometimes we even hung out together. But even when my two closest friends mentioned that they thought he liked me, I immediately shut down the idea. Throughout my years in school, I did not get into any relationship. I went on quite a few dates that lingered on for weeks, but the minute I noticed any sign of bad behavior or traits that I didn't like, I pulled out and set the guy on his way. I did not even wait to find out if it was a genuine mistake or it was just a passing incident. He was out. If they said something that didn't sit well with me, they were out. If they looked at me or any other lady in a way I considered lustful, they were out. If they made a joke about women that I didn't appreciate, they were out. Sometimes I would tell them off, but many times I just cut them off without even letting them know why. Especially the ones I had any semblance of a liking for. I did not want to get emotionally entangled so that I could make a clean break if necessary. Honestly, there were times when I felt I went overboard. But hey, my whole future was at stake here. Anyway, we graduated and everyone moved on and went our separate ways. Austin and I were posted to different states for our youth service and did not hear from each other again after that. There were no mobile phones at the time. I went to Port Harcourt and thankfully I got a placement in an oil company. I was eventually retained there, so Port Harcourt became my base. I was so glad to be completely away from the tension of our home, although I felt sorry for my mother, who was now mostly alone except when my younger sister was on holiday from school. Within 8 years, I had made quite the life for myself in Port Harcourt. I lived comfortably, I had bought a car, and I had all the trappings of a good life. I was 31 and I was doing well. I was not eager to get married, although I felt the necessity to do so, and I felt like time was not on my side. It was a real internal struggle for me because no man I met seemed good enough, as I constantly had flashes of my mom's life in my mind, and I continued to react to all the men at the slightest hint of conflict. To make matters worse, one of my older sisters had been married and divorced by this time because her husband was physically abusive. She and her 2 children now shared an apartment with my other sister, who was a single mother to 1 daughter. Their situation amplified my fears. This was my state when I bumped into Austin one day at the bank. He had just been transferred from Abuja to work at the bank's branch in Port Harcourt. We spoke for a while and then we exchanged numbers. Mobile phones had come in about 4 years earlier. That was how he became a regular feature in my life. He told me from the beginning that he wanted to be more than friends and had always wanted to. But oh, I gave him a tough time. Thinking back, I wonder why he stayed around me. I was hypersensitive and extremely suspicious of his actions and intentions. He was doing well in his career, but I earned more and I had more savings. Austin was a firstborn and he supported his parents and his younger ones. I made all kinds of insinuations about why he was hanging around me, and I told him to his face. From him wanting to get his hands on my finances, to just being there for the physical attraction, to wanting a familiar face since he could not find anyone else at his age. Anything I could say to test his resilience. I took his financial advice with huge reservations because I told him I did not want him to control my money. He was a committed Christian, and when he spoke about my commitment to my faith, I read it as him trying to make me a docile victim of dogma so that he could manipulate me. I was testy about any relationships he had with other ladies, even if he was just speaking casually with them. I threatened to leave him at the slightest opportunity. Because I had always cut off relationships at the least sign of issues, I had never really been committed to anyone. This was the first time I had remained with one man for an extended length of time, and I saw a side of myself that I never knew existed. A side I did not like, but I had little control over. I really don't understand why Austin stayed, because I don't think I could have coped with myself. But he was patient with me and kind to me. Deep down, I felt Austin was not doing any of the things I constantly accused him of. But I was afraid of being taken for granted and getting betrayed. Fighting him was my defense, and I did not know how to stop myself. I loved him, but I never admitted it to him for the 2 years that we dated. When he asked me to marry him, I thought he was joking. I asked him why, and he said it was because he loved me. I asked him if he was sure he could cope with me because I would not change, and he said it didn't matter. I accepted his proposal because I didn't know what else to say to deter him. He was a good man, but I was afraid, and I poured all my pent-up frustration on him. He, on the other hand, had done everything he could to show his commitment, and I knew this. And so we got married. For the first 2 years of our marriage, I continued my behavior. I monitored his movement, I searched through his phone, which he never locked, by the way, and I was non-committal about church. However, I began to realize that my fears were unfounded with Austin. He had no vices. He came home straight after work and spent all his spare time at home. In fact, when his friends realized that he would not come out, our house became a meeting place for them to hang out and watch football at weekends. I relaxed as I grew to trust him. We waited 2 years before I got pregnant, and when our son came, Austin made us his priority. We have been married for 14 years, and me and our 2 kids have the best husband and father possible. I could not have asked for better. Austin broke all the evil stereotypes that I had about men, and I have him to thank for not giving up on me. What do you think about Felicia's story? Any lessons to learn? Please share in the comments below. Before you leave, remember to take a look around my channel for other interesting stories and valuable videos. Don't forget to subscribe. And yes, you could also join the Valiant Women's community, which is a place where we share topical issues, have fun, and carry out other interesting activities. Find the link in the description below this video. Once again, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, to like this video, and to share with somebody else. Ciao!